Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Broadcasting live from Saudi Arabia. So if the internet poops out, that's me, not Soto. They hate internet here in the desert. But it worked out perfect because there's no booze in this country, and this is the last week of dry January. So even if I wanted to like buckle and like cave in and have no self-control, I don't even have the option in Saudi Arabia. No drugs, nothing, no alcohol. My brain's going to be straight. So this is either going to be the best show I've ever done, Soto, or the worst show because I'm like dead sober, not hungover, or I'm going to like get the shakes. We'll see. You be the judge.
I'm voting for the worst.
Think worst case scenario?
No, I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Popeye needs the spinach, and Popeye don't got it. Episode 299 of the Autumn Windbags. And that's just full episodes, like the Thursday shows and post-game shows. We've done over 750 videos, but 299. Air high five. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but should be special. A lot of 300 movie. We got to cross those lines somehow, you know. You got to push the threshold beyond as far as we can. It's the way to go.
Got to hang dong.
Got to go to the full Monty. Otherwise, what are we even doing here, you know?
Got to do it right here, boys.
Giant news. I don't want to underestimate. I don't want to understate how big this is. We're extremely jacked with the news, and it's not a done deal. But according to it's pending, but it seems like it's a done deal. Josina Anderson tweets, breaking, I'm told the Raiders and Patrick Graham are working on a deal to bring him back as defensive coordinator per league sources. Again, it's pending, but it seems like it's on the 5-yard line. So let's just hand it off to Marshawn instead of throw the ball. Well, this is great news. I wasn't too worried we lose him to a head coach because the Raiders defense hasn't been great, but it definitely seemed like he was unhappy, and understandably so, right? He's like, why am I going to be a good defensive coordinator with a team that can't get the offense together? Head coach changes all the time. GM changes all the time. But he's coming back, and that's awesome for many, many, many reasons.
Yeah, it shows. I mean, look, luckily for us, Jacksonville and Liam Coen don't have like any type of business ethic. So we're really cool with that. The whole, I don't know if you guys have heard, but how that all went down. Liam Coen was supposed to sign his new contract with a raise and a new title with the Bucks. And then the Jags fired whatever his name was, Trent Baalke, and then they called Liam Coen back, and they're like, "Yo, before you sign anything," and then the Bucks were like, "Hey, man, you're supposed to be here to sign your contract. Where are you?" It's like that whole freaking clip from Office Space where like they keep calling, he's still asleep. Like they keep calling, leaving messages, and The crappy part about that was for Patrick Graham, at least, was Patrick Graham passed up at least one, probably two defensive coordinator positions that he would have gotten if he would have really went for them. But he was holding out for the Jacksonville job because Liam Coen said that he wasn't going to take the job. And him and Robert Saleh were both scheduled to meet with the Jags and had their flights. And then they had to look on Twitter to find out that Liam Coen took the job. So that left Patrick Graham really with nowhere to go. I mean, there's a couple of jobs out there, but I mean, of all the jobs that are left, why would you leave, a defense that you built? And if you want to build a kind of a resume, you don't want to start over somewhere. You want to, work off of the job that you've already done. And that's what Patrick Graham is doing. And it's smart for Patrick Graham. It gives him a path to a head coach. Pete Carroll has had 2 defensive coordinators become head coaches, Gus Bradley and Dan Quinn. So there's precedent there that Pete Carroll's able to get these guys ramped up and ready to rock to become head coaches. And even though Pete Carroll showed a lot of energy in the press conference, he's not going to coach forever. He could technically be a guy that's kind of groomed under Pete Carroll to take over potentially when he chooses to step down.
Yeah, I think that's how they sweeten the pot to keep him from bouncing, right? Like, I didn't think he was going to get a head.
I mean, he already
job this
bounced.
last
If we want to be technical about it, he was already gone. He was a free agent.
He let his contract let his contract run out, right? So he was unemployed as opposed to somewhere. Like the contract ran out, and he was looking. I get it, right? I understand why he was looking elsewhere, right? Like the Raiders haven't been winning. Yeah, well, I didn't think he would be. I could be wrong, but I didn't think he was going to get a head coaching job. I think he wanted to be a DC somewhere, like the Bengals or something, a place with a great offense, but the defense couldn't get their act together, or one of the places where DC became a head coach, going to like an organization like that. But I think this is best for all parties involved for multiple reasons. Obviously, he's had a lot of success here. The Raiders were in not this year. Like this year's kind of a weird one because there were so many injuries, but 8th in DVOA in 2023, which was big. And he has a system that's complicated, not like Paul Gunther insane, but it does take season and a half, 2 seasons. We saw with the Raiders defenders, like guys that like really didn't get it. And then second season, when guys are in the system for about 18 months, it clicks and guys start having some good seasons. So continuity is great for the team. It's a sign that Pete Carroll's like sometimes when head coaches and especially head coaches and GMs come in, they just wipe the slate clean. My guys, my way, we're changing everything. It's like, no, there's some things that are working here. And Patrick Graham's one of the few things that has consistently worked. And I think it's best for Patrick Graham. For like you mentioned, it seems like maybe there was either a wink, wink, nod, nod succession plan. Maybe there's even something in writing where it's like, hey, stick around PG. Obviously, Pete Carroll's going to be 74 in September. He's not going to be here for 20 years. He probably won't be here for 5 years. You be the next guy. And if there's something like that to make him stay, because hopefully we have a wonderful problem to have, that our defense is so amazing that Patrick Graham gets head coaching offers next season and bounce. Like, that's going to happen, right? That's good. Good franchises can't hang on to coordinators because they move on somewhere. So I think it's good for Patrick Graham. I think this defense should be fantastic next season with 1 or 2 pieces. And if they stay healthy, they already know the system. Hopefully this also means that we'll keep a lot of the free agents on defense that like you and I are like, we should keep most of these guys if we, especially if we can get them on fair contracts. And then it's good for him where I think he can look good. I think the defense will play well. And maybe he sticks around a little bit longer if there's the carrot in front of him that you can be head coach here once Pete Carroll gets geriatric, which will happen eventually. It's not the day.
For sure, man. It's just it just makes sense. And it just goes to show you Pete Carroll knows what he wants, knows what he's looking for, and he knows what he's doing. He wants to pick a staff. Okay, why would I go somewhere else if I want to win now? We had a good defensive coordinator. He's a good coach. Why would I overhaul a defense? Doesn't make sense. The defense wasn't nearly the problem with this team. They have a lot of free agents, but it gives them a clear plan moving forward. And it gives them a kind of something to one of the check marks, right? He wants to run the ball and play defense. Okay, well then defense we're going to take care of. We're going to make it better, either signing the free agents or through the draft. We're going to make the defense better, signing our own free agents. But we're also going to, keep a good coach on the staff, regardless of where they're from, what tree they're from, or whatever. He said it during the press conference. He wants coaches that he's been with, coaches he's never coached with before. He wants a good mix of everything, and he wants to keep. This checks 2 boxes: coach he's never coached with before, and a coach that's been here. So I think it's a good step forward because it shows that Pete Carroll's like ready to get stuff done. Like he's ready to move forward and get stuff done, and it's not reinventing the wheel here. You know what I'm saying? It just makes a ton of sense. And it's a good move. It's not like he's keeping, a Paul Gunther or something like that. He's keeping a good coach.
And the other part of this that I kind of like that no one's really talking about is if this defense like turns around next season, right? Let's say the defense is what we expected. It should be good, man. Like we add either one of those top corners or defensive linemen or defensive ends or something and add those extra pieces. We sign the free agents we thought we want to keep. And everyone stays healthy, or at least, normal amount of injuries and not the second most injured team in the NFL last season. Should be a really good defense. And Patrick Graham's not going to get credit. Everyone's going to give credit to Pete Carroll. So I'm like, oh, look, see Pete Carroll. Because, you know how national media is. It's like, oh, Pete Carroll came in. Now the defense is great. Like, everything else was there. Like, they're not going to dive into, well, the scheme was good, how injured they were last season. They're just going to be like, oh, yeah, Pete Carroll, like, turn around the defense. So hopefully that keeps PG around. If PG doesn't get credit for it the way he should, that's another thing that can hopefully, like, again, we love Pete. We don't want anyone to know how good Patrick Graham is. Like, that was like our secret for the last 2 seasons. It's like, shh, don't even say his name. I don't even want to say how good he is because I don't want the word to get out. But that's another like little wrinkle to follow is if the defense is awesome next season or even like good, top 10, top 5, something like that, watch the national media. Pete Carroll did it. Oh, man, his defensive background. It's the Legion of Boom again. The guy is just like a defensive guru. He's going to get all the credit. Patrick Graham won't get shit.
I don't think so, man. Pete Carroll had 2 defensive coordinators become head coaches. So the defensive, I mean, he is a defensive coach, but defensive coordinator got plenty of credit. They both got head coaching jobs. That's Patrick Graham's goal. So it's happened twice already. And it's not like he came to Seattle and they already had a defensive coordinator, and it's a different situation.
Well, that's why I think he won't get credit, because it is a different situation. He just doesn't. No one gives PG credit. Never gets in. You never hear about him anywhere being talked about as a good DC. Like, it just doesn't happen. I mean, maybe in really tight circles. We'll see. It's definitely something I want to follow on who's getting what credit. A couple more things on this before we move on. I love the continuity, because the Raiders can't keep on coaches, whether it's head coach, GM, DC, OC. No one's been sticking around. That's good by itself for all the reasons we mentioned. And 2 specifically, I think keeping Maxx Crosby happy. I imagine Maxx loves this. That's not the reason why they kept Patrick Graham, but it's a nice bonus. Is that a guy that's like, what are we doing? Everyone's changing. Maxx loves PG, understandably so, helped make him the player that he is now. So that continuity for all the reasons above, I think, is huge.
Well, also, you look at like a Rob Leonard too. Rob Leonard's the defensive line coach, and he's like a name that is starting to get some momentum in coaching circles. So it's a good guy to keep around as well. And yeah, for continuity, for sure, definitely. And we're seeing that there's an actual plan in place, not just a bunch of words being said, right? Yeah. Like last year when AP said that I want to run the football and I want to do this and I want to do that. Yeah, let's not do anything to our offensive line and let our running back walk. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't match up to what they said they wanted, right? This is, Pete Carroll said, I want to keep good coaches on the staff, and I want to coach with people I've never coached before. Teaching doesn't scare Pete Carroll. And I think that a lot of good coaches are going to want to coach with Pete Carroll because he has just as good a track record developing coaches as he does developing players. And if the team has success like we think it's going to have, it's going to rub off on them.
So what does this mean roster-wise? I think between Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham, I think that's a very good sign. The Raiders are going to keep the bulk of these defensive free agents that we've been talking about. Spillane, I think, stays now. Jenkins, I think, stays now. Merrick for sure stays with how much Pete Carroll loves his safeties. I think Butler sticks around. Diablo is going to be a weird one. I have no idea what his open market price is going to be, because he basically put together one good half season. How much does everyone think that matters? Who knows?
I think Diablo can walk, and I'll be completely fine with it.
Kuntz, again, another half season. I don't know idea what his market's going to be. I think Chason we keep for cheap. Palomao, I think we keep for cheap.
Palomao's are restricted, so we can just match the offer. I think we'll be fine with him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think it'll be cheap, right? I don't think anyone's gonna go crazy for Isaiah. Nate Hobbs is a weird one because of injury. He seems like the type of guy that both guys like. He just keeps getting hurt every season.
Yeah, Nate Hobbs. And the fact that he's primarily a slot like corner, it's not a premium position. Normally you see a lot of the slot guys are some of the veterans who are a little more crafty, who maybe gotten a little step slower. Mm-hmm. They can work on they're quicker than they are fast. And their experience keeps them ahead of the game in the slot. So, I mean, it's a lot harder to find a guy to, cover these outside guys when they're out on islands outside. They don't have help with guys over the middle and stuff like that. I personally, I think we could upgrade from Diablo and we could upgrade from Hobbs. With Diablo, just his play is like whatever. It's nothing great for his size. He doesn't cover extremely well, and if you're going to be a smaller linebacker, you're going to need to be a good coverage guy. And he didn't make that leap in coverage the way Spillane did. I was high on Spillane. I liked Spillane, and that was my thing too. Is like I didn't think that he was very good in coverage, but he made a huge leap with Antonio Pierce kind of helping him out and coaching him up. Diablo didn't make that leap, and he was a safety in college. So it's like, yeah, if you're going to be undersized at linebacker and be able and get because Diablo still gets pushed around in the run game, he still gets caught in bad positions, he still attacks the wrong holes sometimes. Giggity, it's like you can't do all of that and expect to be re-signed. This is a new day. It's just not the whole new day of, well, he was one of our best guys, so we have to keep him. No. Who's the best out there that we can get? This is not the same old BS that we're going to get just signing a guy because we're signing a guy. We're going to upgrade that position. And as for Hobbs, when he's available and he's on, yeah, great. He's a really good player, and I would love to keep him, but he's not healthy and he's inconsistent. So, I mean, again, that's two strikes against you.
That's what I mean. It's all about what the market thinks too, right? If you can get these guys for cheap and make them rotational guys, great. Know the system, they know the place, stick around, be our backup, right? We need depth. But clearly after last season, we learned we need a shit ton of depth on defense. I just can't get a gauge. Like Spillane's going to be hard to keep, right? Want to keep him, but he won't be cheap. Merrick, probably going to be tough to cheap. Going to be expensive, but we want to keep him. There's other guys. I'm like, what does the league think of Nate Hobbs? He's flashed, but he keeps getting hurt, right? It's like Kuntz. Does anyone want him? Like, is there going to be a single bidder for him, or can we get him for, veteran minimum, right? Like I just don't know how the rest of the league thinks of our kind of like tweener guys. I just have no clue.
I mean, we take a look at like guys like Amik Robertson and like Rock Yassin, like they go to other places, right? And they sign. Mm-hmm. What do they sign for? They sign for $3-4 million, something like that. Nothing crazy. Yeah. The thing that we have to take a look at, keep in mind, is Kuntz and Hobbs play 2 of the 5 premium positions. Mm-hmm. And you're always looking for an upgrade at those positions. And if you flash, every coach out there thinks that they're going to be able to get the most out of this guy and maximize him. And yeah, we've seen flashes, but I can get him to perform at that level consistently. So it's not like it's an interior defensive lineman or a linebacker or, an interior offensive lineman. These are like premium positions here. Those are like quarterback, receiver, tackle, edge rusher, and corner. Those are the highest paid positions for a reason, because they're the most coveted and they're most important. So one's an edge and one's a corner. So that can play into it as well. But honestly, I think if Kuntz is smart, he'll re-sign, because PG has gotten the best out of him. I don't think he's had another defensive coordinator, right? He wasn't under Gunther, was he? I don't think so. I think he knows how to get the best out of him. I think Kuntz knows that too.
And I think to your point, I think Pete Carroll is probably the type of guy that thinks the same things other 31 coaches think. It's like, yeah, Nate Hobbs, like, under me, I can make it work. Kuntz, under me, I can make it work. So that's what I'm gauging is, what does the rest of the market think, and what does Pete Carroll think? Again, like we know Pete Carroll, but it's like, You know, it was like Telesco last season. Like, yeah, I've known him from the Chargers forever. Like, I know who he picks and stuff. But intimately as a Raider, I'm still, you know, figuring that out, right? So that's another thing to follow is what Pete Carroll thinks of this roster. And is he thinking super optimistically about the guys that are already there? It's like, yo, yeah, this guy was pretty good last season, had flashes. I can make him something special. Or he's like, nah. But also wonder, too, if with keeping PG, how much PG will decide that too. If he's like, if how much Carroll's going to lean on Graham on, you know, hey, you know these guys. What do you think?
Honestly,
I think that Brady, like so many decision makers.
Well, kind of knowing how Pete Carroll, how he handled USC, it was always about getting the best player, getting the best one available, right? I don't care if I signed Reggie Bush. You know, you want another top flight running back? Yes, I'll take him. You know, he'll stack players and he'll make them compete and he'll find ways to get them on the field. So if he goes to PG and says, okay, what do you need? I need another edge rusher outside opposite maxx. I need a slot corner. Okay. We have Coons. What do you think of these guys? Okay, what do you think of these guys compared to these guys? Because who's better? The guy that we had or this guy that's available? Is Matthew Judon better than Malcolm Coons? Can we get Matthew Judon? Would you rather have Matthew Judon on this team? Well, he's going to be more. Don't worry about how expensive he is. Would you rather have Matthew Judon on this team or Malcolm Coons? Who would you rather have? Who is better for your defense? And that's how Pete Carroll thinks. And he's going to get the best guy he can. He's not going to worry about, he's a scheme fit or he knows the system already. We'll worry about that later. Get the best player we can get. And that's how he's going to run it. That's what he does.
I mean, that's all well and good at SC, right?
That's how he builds
that's all well and good at SC when you can recruit, right? And then also on top of that, you have Spytek, who those Bucks teams, it's like 85% of their starters or something were drafted.
Fuck, dude.
So you got Spytek.
22. That's ridiculous.
It's like an insane amount, right?
44 out of what, 58? That's
like
nuts,
some crazy number. So how is he going to approach that here? It's like, does he care if the Raiders drafted them and that will apply to his philosophy? Or it's like, no, if my guys, if it's not my guys that aren't drafted, then I don't care. So does Spytek come in and want to clean house? There's so many like conflicting philosophies, and we'll see how it all merges.
I think they have the same philosophy. It's just get the best player they can, regardless if it's signing our own guy, if it's drafting a guy, or if it's signing someone else's guy. I think it's just getting the best player available, honestly, and letting the chips fall where they may. Because I'll tell you something right now, it's extremely possible that we re-sign a Hobbs and he doesn't play. Because if he doesn't perform in practice, he's not going to play.
Every GM and every coach wants the best players available. It's just limited resources, right? It's like, how are you going to allocate the resources you have to get the best, right? Like in a salary cap league, you can't afford to pay the best of every player. You got to like either prioritize positions, or you say, all right, we're going to save money by drafting everybody. And in the quarterback situation, what are we going gung ho on free agency? It's going to cost $100 million over 3 years. Are we, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, like, of course he wants the best players everywhere, but when you have a giant hole at quarterback and 25 free agents where like, we kind of want to keep like 15 of them, you know, there's only so much money in that purse, so many resources. So,
well, and that's why the legal tampering, you know, where you can re-sign your own guys, that's going to be so important. And more so to re-sign like the middle level guys that you know are going to be like roster filler dudes. You would love to sign your freaking high price, but those guys are going to sign right away, you know, because they want to be bid on by other teams too, right? But the middle of the road guys, they just want to get a contract, and you swoop up the guys that you want to keep, so you have depth, and then you go big game hunting, and you go, you know, your studs and duds, right? You get your 1-2 big guys out there. You re-sign some of your own dudes, but that's why the work now is so important, because you get to stack them. Like, okay, what's the most important position that we need on our defense? What do we need to get more than anything? And I'm telling you right now, everybody, yes, Spillane's very important. That opposite edge is the most important thing to this defense. You saw what happened when you didn't have that guy on the other edge, on the other side of Maxx. It changed the defense. Okay, if you get the guy on the other side of Maxx, then that changes everything else. So that's number one. That's when you can go to a Matthew Judon or a big name, because it's a huge part of what you need to make your defense run. After that, then you just stack them in order. What's the next position that's the most important? If we can't get our guy, what are the other guys? What's the drop off from the guy that we want to the guy that we had, or the guy that we had to the next guy available? That's why this time right now is so important. And that's why it's very important that we have Spytek here, because Spytek has extensive experience of being a very good talent evaluator, not only being head of college scouting, but also head of player personnel, which is basically NFL scouting. You're scouting other teams in the NFL and also doing contracts. So it's good that we have guys that have experience doing it, and they both do, even though, Spytek hasn't had like the single sole GM, moniker. He's done everything that a GM does.
I could see Pete Carroll looking at Tyree Wilson and seeing like, I can make him it. I can do it. He's got the physical attributes. Like dating a strip. Sure he does. Sure he does. Like you talk about best athletes, like just specimens. That's Tyree. I mean, Tyree Wilson's a lot of things. He is a specimen. He doesn't have a lot of moves.
I mean, maybe coming out of college, yeah, but he's already shown you that he's. I mean, the way like Pete Carroll thinks is like he's got a lot of good tools, man. We're going to coach him up, and it's going to be up to him to how high he goes. Mm-hmm. That's how he thinks, and that's how he talks. I've heard his press conferences. Like that's his mentality. His mentality is we're going to assemble the best group of players that we can get on and off the field, like football-minded guys who want to work hard. We're going to get them together. We're going to get them to be good teammates, and we're going to get them to compete. And the cream is going to rise to the top. That's it. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care where you were drafted. I don't care what accolades you have. If someone on the team plays better than you do, they're going to play and you not. And that's just a bottom line. And I think the players really appreciate that, because it's not going to be like, the whole team wants Aiden O'Connell to play quarterback, but then they're just rolling Gardner Minshew out there over and over again. This is like the fairest that it's going to be in the Raiders it's been for a long time. The best players are going to play.
Well, I think we're saying the same thing. I think he thinks Tyree Wilson can be thrown into that mix with a lot of depth that we have at defensive end, where there's a lot of like guys that are like edging, you know what I mean? Like on the cusp. Like Wilson has all the physical tools. Jason came in and looked way better than we thought. How's he going to look in another year of the same scheme? I'm with you. I'm just saying, again, allocation of resources. We'd love to sign a $30 million guy at every position on defense. There's just not enough money. So you got to decide.
You got to stack them priority wise.
Yeah. You watched the Pete Carroll presser, right?
I sure did. He fucking jogged down the steps.
He's like, I have to show off how athletic I am to everybody, because I know they're all talking about my age. You know what I mean? It's like at the beginning of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where he's like limping and then just does like a somersault. He's like, hey, I'm 73, but I can run circles around all you fat asses.
Dude, he looked fucking spry, dude. Whatever he's taking, dude, I want some of it, dude.
I care less physically. Oh, that's nice. Like it's if your body's doing great, there's a good chance your mind is. I care more about mind. And he was still witty, cracking jokes. Like that's more what I cared about. Was like, I don't want to overdo a press conference. They're pep rallies. You know what I mean? However, whatever little like difference you can make, I think he did, because there was questions around Pete Carroll that don't exist around any other coach. It's gonna be the oldest coach in NFL history. Very first impression is, it was like Joe Biden in that debate with Trump, right? Like, I was like, okay, he's not
just looking around. What?
Yeah, like lost. You know what I mean? He turns into a Roomba and just starts bumping into stuff. You know what I mean? It's like
around and shit.
Where am I going? It's like I always say Biden, it's like
he should have never been in that position. Poor guy. It's not his fault.
Dude,
he had a brain injury, dude. Poor guy, man. Damn.
We can make it work. His handler's like, oh yeah, we can totally make it work. I always say like press conferences, they're like the dude in a porno. You can't make it better, but you can make it worse. You know what I mean? Like, the dudes in the pornos are like talking too much and just like trying to be part of it. You're like, dude, you're
What
just
was that
there
line in
to smash the chick. Whereas like at a presser, it's
in
like,
American
you're not
Pie?
going to like make me excited for you, but you can blow it.
What was that line in American Pie when he's like watching the scrambled porn? He's like, "Oh, spank my hairy ass," and he's like, "Oh, shut up, dude."
Yeah, exactly. You can only ruin it. You can't make it better. And I think Pete Carroll did that. And he's had a couple things that are just kind of something to keep an eye on. Like he had the competition that we've talked about that he's known for, the cooperation, and his philosophy with quarterback, where it's like, yeah, quarterback's super important, but I'm not going to lean on my quarterback. It's so hard that I have to make everything easy on my quarterback. And you remember like the let Russ cook season, right? Where it's just like, oh, just let Russ do whatever he wants. Like, no, it needs to be opposite. It's make everything easy as possible on your quarterback. And if they have to play hero ball eventually, then so be it. And we saw that flame out. So it's partly, it's just general philosophy that we all kind of knew, but he cemented even after a year off.
And we all saw it. We all saw it unravel. When they played the style of football that Pete Carroll wants to play, when it was a run first, play action, take deep shots when you can, and if you have to, run around and make a play. Because I mean, Russell Wilson wasn't known as a guy that ran around and threw the ball on the run. He was a guy that ran around to run and get first downs. He was like a running quarterback type of guy. He ran RPOs. Don't get me wrong. He did run RPOs a lot, but that was planned. Those play breakdowns were for him to run, and he wasn't like a Patrick Mahomes, like running around and slinging it. And that's when he got into trouble, when he wasn't playing on time, and the whole let Russ cook. If he still wants to be let Russ cook, I want no part of him, none whatsoever. That's like Broncos' last 2 years of Seattle Russ. I don't want that Russ. And if he can, if he can accept what this team needs to win and how Pete Carroll wants to play, yeah, man, that's just exactly what we're talking about. Run the football, make it easy on him, because dude, in the time frame he was in Seattle, Russ won the second most games in the NFL by one. I think he had like 104 wins, and Peyton Manning had 105. It's like, how can you argue with that success? Well, Russell Wilson did. And he wanted a bigger role, and he wanted to be the man, and he wanted to, all this other let Russ cook nonsense. And it didn't work. It didn't work. So let's hope whoever comes in, whether it's Russ or anybody else, that they pay attention to what happened and they just listen.
So Pete was asked about Russell Wilson on the What the Football podcast. And the question was, all right, what are your plans at quarterback, and does it involve Russell Wilson? Take a listen.
Right now, Susie, it's so early. I mean, we're just in the midst of just trying to, find the puzzle pieces, not even putting them together yet. So I can't even say. I mean, guys are still, free agency hasn't come yet. That's the first competitive opportunity that will occur, and then the draft is coming. We'll have that opportunity to do things. I can't tell you right now. I mean, I could guess, but it would just be a guess. So, but I promise you, if you're a real competitor, you're not letting options get away from you. So we're going to consider every option as a possibility, and we're going to go after it very aggressively with intent, and hopefully with a sense and a feeling that people want to be part of this thing. So.
Are you feeling a little chilly, Soto? Because I just felt like a bunch of cold water just got dumped on us. Like that was the without giving an answer, yes or no. And he said the right thing. It's like, look, it's still super early. We'll go for the free agency. We'll look at the draft, which is all true. But normally when you get that question about a guy that you've had like a decade of success with, you'd be like, yeah, we'll look at everybody. But obviously Russell's fantastic. We had a lot of success together. You say all the nice things to close it out. Pete was just like, didn't say his name, didn't talk about him at all. Just the super generic, we're going to, it's too early. We're going to find the best guys and they're going to compete. Like, it's not like Pete had no interest in Russ.
I mean, it could be a smokescreen. He's a pro, he's not going to get super pumped up about a guy, but he's like, it's kind of like the art of telling the truth, but not saying anything at the same time. Mm-hmm. That was kind of a perfect example of it. Cause he did. Yeah. You do want to get the right guy, and you do want to start to, we are just in the beginning stages of seeing what's happening and what's going on, because you don't even know who's available yet. I mean, Kirk Cousins is probably going to get cut, and he's going to be available. And I think a lot of the problems that he had later in the year, as the year went on, was the fact that he wasn't fully healed from the Achilles injury. And they were asking too much of him. They had Bijan Robinson, but they were still asking him to throw 40, 50 times a game. It's ridiculous. So, and Algiers too. But yeah, 2 good running backs. So I don't think that's going to be the issue with the quarterback that plays for us. They're not going to have to throw the ball that much. And hopefully, if he's even if it's a young quarterback or if it's a bridge quarterback, because if we get one of these Justin Fields or even Sam Darnold or any of these guys, Wilson or Kirk Cousins, whoever's available, right? If we get one of these guys, it's still not going to be a 30, 40 time, 50 time throwing a game thing. It's not. It's still going to be the Pete Carroll philosophy of running the ball and taking the shots when you can, playing good defense. So whoever plays there is going to have to be okay with that. And if it's Russell Wilson, if he's the best guy available that they can get, I don't think that Pittsburgh is going to allow him to leave, because I think they know that he's their best option. But if he's allowed to get past that first little wave of that first little quarter of the first wave of free agency, which is where you could sign your own people, if he gets out of that, all bets are off. But I don't think it's going to make it that far.
Well, there's no doubt that Russell Wilson's agent's going to call Pete Carroll, right? Like, you're going to go to every possibility and you're going to try to drive that price up, and you're going to say, hey, Pete, what do you think? So that phone call will absolutely happen. And based on that answer, I don't think it'll be a long conversation. I mean, that was, and you're right. Like, you leave it coach speak, but coach speak is you speak very generically and then speak highly of whoever you're talking about, right? It's like, well, we don't know. We'll play close to our vest. We're going to find the best guy available. But obviously, Russell Wilson's had a lot of success and, blah, 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 blah. He left that second part out of coach speak. He just did the generic part of coach speak. So we'll see. The number one, piece of information I wanted from the press conference is knowing who has final roster decision-making. Is it Spytek, the new GM, or Pete Carroll? And that was the one, everything else is kind of pep rally. It's fun to talk about his philosophy and everyone's excited. It's it's a press conference, but it's a pep rally. I did want one piece of concrete information. We didn't get that info when they signed Pete Carroll. We didn't get the info when they signed John Spytek. We're like, oh, we'll get it at the presser. We'll find out who has final roster decision-making. That's a big deal. That's a very important question. Here's the question, and here's the answer.
Tashawn Reed from The Athletic. Pete, when you were with the Seahawks, you also had the title of Vice President of Football Operations and final say on roster decisions. Is that a role you envision having similarly here, or do you feel like you're going to defer it?
We're sharing everything. We're collaborating to the nth degree. And we're going to do this. We're going to draw the best we possibly have out of each other to make every decision we can make as clear and as sound as possible. And we're going to be able to use our guys that are on top. The success stories our ownership group is just, it's unmatchable. And so we're going to lean on those guys to help us when we need them. And they know they're part of this competition too. But you're going to see us. We're partners in this, and that's the way we did it before. You watch that, and if you look at what happened over the 14 years, you wouldn't have known who was calling what. And that's the way I want it to be, and I know John's on board with that.
Follow-up question. Can you answer the question? Who has final say on the roster? Now we can, there was no follow-up. Casey Kiefer asked another question, and Tashawn, he had his question.
He's so good, dude.
Position in a way.
That was in the middle of the presser. He waited. People didn't want to ask it for a while, and it just sounds like, I'm gonna fucking ask it, dude.
But you know what I mean? It's I would have loved the follow-up to be well, who has final decision making? Because Tashawn positioned it in a friendly, softball way. It's hey, you had this role in Seattle. Is there going to be something similar here? And so that kind of let Pete BS his way out of it. We didn't get an answer, Soto, but just reading the tea leaves, it kind of feels like Carroll does have final say. The way he said it, he made it kind of seem like I don't want to make it a big deal. I don't want to dunk on Spytek, who's sitting right next to me, and say like, "Oh, it's me. I have final decision making." That's kind of how I read it. What about
I think you may have missed a little line. He said they would have to roll things up.
Mhm.
You remember that? Well, that's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
They're not going to ask freaking the real estate mogul guy. It's like, what do we do with this guy? No, they're going to ask Brady. So let's just take a step back from this, okay? Because I want to make sure we're all clear on how this works. They don't sit down and like, I want to sign this guy. No, I want to sign this guy. What do we do? No, it doesn't work that way. All that haggling gets taken care of beforehand when they make their plan. Like the draft thing is their board. Okay. So that's when the arguments happen, is when you make your board. When you follow your board, follow the plan that you have. Okay. Then when the pick's up, there should be no issue of who you're taking because you're just following your plan. The building of the plan and the making of your board, it's the same thing with free agents. You do the same exact thing. You get all the free agents laid out there and you stack them like 1 to whatever, and then you stack them by position, and then you go by what's our need, what do we need to get, right? So as long as you follow your plan, there should be no issues in the pulling of the trigger. The issues are in building your plan and setting your board up. And there's issues with that no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter what the dynamics are. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I didn't see it as Pete Carroll saying that he's going to have the final say, because he did say, yeah, we're going to roll things up. So I don't think they're going to roll things up to Mark Davis.
I mean, the buck stops somewhere, right? And the collaborative effort and the group talk, and that's kind of what we gauged in Seattle. Was there was always a GM, there's scouts and personnel guys, and there's a handful of times where it seemed like Pete Carroll's like, okay, like this is my decision. And I'm with you. I think for the vast majority that it will be like that. Where it's like, hey, we're all kind of on the same page. Spytek's, his job is to get the players that Pete Carroll wants, right? Like that's his job, is to give the coach the best opportunity to succeed. And then obviously Tom Brady's football czar on overhead, and we're still kind of figuring out how much day to day he has. Like, is he gonna like check off the an undrafted free agent third string guard? Maybe Brady wants to be like that involved. Probably not. And so there's all those moving parts, right? It's like, who has final say between Spytek and Carroll, and then how much does Brady get involved on that? Do you have to like kick everything up? Is it just quarterback? Is it just, hey, if it's $15 million or more, you got to run it across Brady's desk? These are all things that we may not ever get an answer to, because the beat writers didn't even get a follow up on like, all right, well, between you two, who has the say? Or neither, right? Are you all just answering to Brady and this is all a farce? Because there's a lot of Brady ass kissing on that presser. Like there's a lot of like, oh, Brady's so great, I'm going to lean on him so much. It's got the best quarterback ever. We ended up with more questions than answers. I wanted a simple answer to that question. We ended up with more questions than answers.
I don't think we needed an answer, because we got an answer from Ziegler, and it was a flat out lie. So what does it matter?
I actually believe that Mark Davis gave Ziegler that power on paper, but Josh McDaniels is just like, help bring Ziegler in. He's like the alpha of the two, and he would be able to get Ziegler to do what he wants. That was Mark.
Mark Davis didn't answer that question. Dave Ziegler answered the question.
Yeah.
That's the main difference. So it doesn't really matter.
Well, Mark Davis came back. Mark Davis came back later, and the way Mark Davis puts it, he's like, he has 51%. Josh McDaniels has 49%. Like he's like really trying to push that it's a collaborative effort, but you only need 50% plus one, and you know what I mean. It's like the Senate, right? If you have 51 votes, it passes. Whether it, what I mean, it's like it's a yay or nay. So, I would like to know. I would like to know if it's because when the buck stops somewhere and something falls apart, who gets the blame, or something goes great?
What does it matter? Are you the decision maker who gets hired and fired?
I would like to know so I can cover the team and make my decisions, and make sure my opinion is educated. So when it's like, oh man, that was completely.
It's unnecessary.
It absolutely is. When Alex Leatherwood was signed in the first round, you have to know who is to blame on that. You 100% have to know who's to blame on that. You can't cover the team correctly if you're just like, well, who knows? Let them all take the blame. It's like, nope.
There's a huge, I understand you're trying to make a point, but there's a huge swing in that pendulum between knowing exactly what went down and saying, oh, well, whatever, just keep moving on. There's a big swing in the middle there. So they're committing to, it's both of us. That's what they're committing to. All right. So that's the words that we have to follow. So if there's a screw up, we blame both of them.
I think there's a decision maker. There is. And I like to know who that is. I'm with you that the collaborative effort's probably going to be the bulk of it. And I don't think it's going to be them fighting over every little thing.
I think you want to know. I don't think you need to know.
I need to know. Otherwise, I can't cover the team.
I think you think you need to know, but it's more of a want to know.
It's like on the field. Like if if there's a miscommunication between a wide receiver and a quarterback, and the pass is like clearly in the wrong direction, who made the wrong read? Did the wide receiver or the quarterback? We need to know so you can correct it. Same thing here.
That's completely different because
it's not. You make an error. I want to know whose fault.
There's only one person throwing the ball, and there's only one person running the route. So yeah, that's completely different.
No, it's not. When you make a decision and the decision is made, you got to stand by it.
We can just disagree, sir.
Okay.
I'm fine with
you know how I was saying how a presser can't be won, but it can be lost. Do you want to see what it's like losing a presser?
I think we dodged a fat bullet.
This is what it looks like to lose a presser.
Jacksonville, the community, Duvall. How do we do this together?
I hope Liam Coen, for his sake, has this brilliant, insane offense that's going to carry him, because that is not a leader of men.
Did he even see? Have you even heard someone say that before?
It's like when the Raiders first went to Vegas and like the new fans were still trying to figure it out. And there was like some chance
Raiders,
of like, let's go Raiders, go Raiders, go. You're like, guys. I know you're new. I know this is new to you. I understand it. This isn't hard. There's one Raiders chant and one Raiders chant only. What's that? Is it an Allstate commercial with the guy in Alabama? And he's just like,
high tide,
high tide, high tide. High tide.
Oh my God. That was so awful. You know what he reminds me of? He looks like one of the Keebler elves, the young one. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Put it back up again. He just looks just like that dude. If he's still got it.
That goobery hair and big ears.
Jacksonville, the community, Duvall. How do we do this together?
Find that dude. Let me find the Keebler elf.
And it's lost in the message because of how he delivered it. I think the message was sound. It's like, hey, we're all coming together. This is a team. This is a community. How do we come together? It's like, okay, like good message, completely lost with the Goober Duvall chant. Completely lost. And I understand the way the trends are going, like offensive coordinators are like, the nerdy genius that's in his nerdery and his calculator and scheming things up. It's like, okay, like, you don't have to be Lombardi, but you can lose. I don't want to over exaggerate a presser, but that's how you lose a presser, is by doing something.
Well, you don't really instill a lot of hope. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I think I found it.
Let's see it. Can you do it side by side?
I mean, I don't think I could do one, but let's see. I'm trying to pull it up here. First off, what site is this? I'll freaking like be some weird site and then pull it up.
You're on some like weird, like dark web porno site of.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? That's not the site I checked. All right, that's better.
The algorithm knows what you're looking for, Soto. It's like, oh, you're looking for elf porn? We got it.
Oh, this guy? Cool, I got you.
Is.
Don't worry. Let's see here.
What was that Daniel Tosh stand-up? He's like, yeah, I'm sick of Google like just guessing what I have. I put an A and they're like, Asian ass porn. We know what you want. We'll take it from here, Tosh. I can see it.
You can see
I think it was the
dude.
younger guy.
That's
That's
an
the
older one.
older guy.
I'm trying to find the younger one, but I couldn't find it.
You gotta look, Google young nubile Keebler elf.
Oh god,
See what
that's
comes
gonna
up.
be bad. Keebler elf, young Keebler elf. Yeah, man, if I get fucking popped for this,
I hope you're on a work computer.
I know I'm on my home computer.
Darn.
I know, right?
All right. Well, you'll put it on social media later.
I didn't expect that to come up. Oh.
You ready to do some what up windbags?
Yes.
That is affirmative. LV Raider 67. Thank you so much for being a member. You guys love washed up has-been quarterbacks. How about looking forward for once? Has-been quarterbacks have never worked out, but Raider fans always want sorry-ass washouts like Russell Wilson. Yeah, he's right. I mean, there's just so many brand new, top-notch available quarterbacks that are just 24 years old that don't have contracts and aren't signed anywhere. We're really fucking up, Soto. Like, why don't we just pick one of these 50 5-star, super amazing quarterbacks that are just begging for jobs? We really fucked up. We're not paying attention.
I just don't understand what's wrong with us, to be honest with you. Like, we should just go around and get one of those just guys that are like,
there's like 7 Patrick
not
Mahomes
really doing much,
just chilling on the couch, waiting for
just
someone
go
to
out
sign.
there. Like in that movie, the Kevin Bacon movie, The Air Up There. Remember?
Mhm.
He's like watching a video and like he sees some guy in the background and like, hey, he's from Kenya. I'm gonna go to Kenya and I'm gonna find this basketball player who no one knows about, but he's gonna be a college player. All this stuff. Yeah, I'm not saying that I love retreads, but I wasn't in love with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think we were both trying to like squint at Gardner Minshew to think that he was going to be something better. But this next guy that comes in, he's not going to be the guy that we're going to hang our hat on for years to come. He's going to be a bridge quarterback. They are going to get a young quarterback, regardless of who they get or who they sign or whatever. They're going to draft a young quarterback early in this draft. They're going to get one. So they're going to have to look. Pete Carroll, dude, he wants to win now, okay? And you're not going to get the type of quarterback like Jaden Daniels is not in this draft. Okay, Drake May is not in this draft. You're not going to be able to get a guy like that who's going. There's a reason why the rookie quarterbacks don't start in Super Bowls, dude. It's crazy because it just doesn't happen. Like you need some time to like grow and get and improve on who you are already. He doesn't have that kind of time, dude. He doesn't want that kind of time. He wants to do it right now. So, I mean, just percentages tell you that you're going to need a guy that knows what he's doing.
Look, LV Raider 67. Give me 3 to 5 quarterbacks that meet your criteria that the Raiders aren't pursuing. Like, who are these hot shot, young, can't miss quarterbacks that we're overlooking that are available? Please, if we're missing them, let us know.
And if you say Jackson Dart, I want to refer you to the Senior Bowl footage practice. Him and Milroe.
And that's the other thing. The Raiders are going to take a shot on one of these guys. They will. They'll use a third round pick.
They're going to take one. There are so many of these young guys that are, look, accurate for what Pete Carroll wants to do. There is no better quarterback in this draft class than Shedeur Sanders. Hands down. A guy that can play from the pocket, accurate, gets the ball out, can read a defense, can run for a first down when he needs to. He's not going to create or anything like that. He's the guy. Everyone else, like, and then there's Cam Ward, who's not really what he wants. That's what Cam Ward plays how Russell Wilson thought he could play, and it didn't turn out well. The rest of the guys, like, there's a group of like 6 to 8 quarterbacks after that are. There's not a huge gap in between these guys right now. I'm not saying that they can't develop into more, whoever gets put in better positions, stuff like that. But as of right now, there's a big just just lump of quarterbacks that are, your guess is as good as mine, just as good as one of the others. So just take a big step back. I understand that everyone thinks that it almost seems like the last video that someone watches, that's the quarterback that the Raiders should get. Oh, you should get this guy.
LB Raider 67. We're shitting on you. I
I'm not
understand your
shitting on the
frustration.
guy. I'm trying to educate him.
I get it. I get it. It's hard to get excited for Gardner Minshew. It's hard to get excited for Jimmy Garoppolo. I get it. They're not excited. Like, you're not jacked for these things. You're not like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about the Raiders' future when you get these retreads. I get it. Totally understand. But what's the alternative? What's the option? Where is this plethora of young, amazing, can't miss quarterbacks? They're not there. So the Raiders, it's hard to predict, but they'll probably take a swing at some second or third round. Maybe you're Jackson Dart, maybe you're Milroe. So one of these guys, they'll take a stab at a young guy, and they're going to get a veteran. Like that's the best course of action. Like
we said last week, like we said 2 weeks ago, before we even knew that Pete Carroll was hired, like we said a month ago, that we've been saying this forever. You're going to get a veteran and you're going to get a young guy. We've said it. It's been said.
You got a bridge, you got development, and you got Favre as your backup. That's our prediction. Next season, that'll be the quarterback room.
Hearing people, God, dude, people are still just, I don't know what Kool-Aid they're drinking, dude. They just freaking replaced one quarterback with the other, and like, oh, Favre hasn't been given a chance. And if you take a look at this, like, yeah, whatever, dude.
I think people fall in love with the story of Favre more than the play of Favre, which I get. He's super easy to like, ultimate underdog. He's overachieved. Like, you can love him. You know what I mean? Put him on the Christmas card list, make him your godfather of your kids. Like, great guy.
I don't dislike the guy,
but
he's just not a starting quarterback in the NFL.
You gonna win us the Super Bowl? Like, is he gonna?
You're telling me he can go in there in those 2 championship games that we saw? The Commanders and the Eagles and the Bills and the Chiefs. You're telling me that Favre can go in there and do what those quarterbacks were doing?
Hey, here's the other thing. If he does turn out to beat all odds and become amazing, great. Why just bank on it? Why not get another veteran and get a rookie? And if Favre beats them all out, wonderful.
Right now, it's just nothing but a guess. That's all it is.
Why push all of your chips onto Favre? There's no reason to just, even if you're the biggest Favre believer, okay? For the sake of argument, let's say you're like, Favre can be a Super Bowl MVP, and you think that. Why not still draft another guy? Why not still sign a veteran? Just for backup, for competition, to help each other get better?
Favre has not shown he can do that. Favre hasn't shown he can do that. Now, if Favre has shown he can do that, then okay, I'm fine with it. You roll with him. But if you don't, you're just kind of like, you're wishing on a star. Like, oh, I have a feeling about this guy. Yeah, whatever, dude.
And even then, and again, to my point, even if you feel that about Favre, it makes all right, we have Maxx Crosby. We still got to draft defensive ends. We still need depth. We still need another guy on the other side. Like, same thing. Even if you think he's going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you still have to get other quarterbacks. You still have to.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't get him in the first round or second round, but it doesn't make any sense, dude. It really doesn't.
The only quarterback on the roster right this second, we need at least 2 more. Why not make them as good as possible?
I mean, Minshew's still on the roster. He hasn't been cut yet, but he's
not cut yet, but he gone. He gone.
He's cut. I think Andre James is going to get cut. Jack Jones might get cut.
I bet you they keep Bradley on practice squad. I can see them keeping Bradley on practice squad. Just
maybe
for name alone. Sam DeMann. Thank you for being a member. I think we dodged a bullet with Ben Johnson. Gives me Adam Gase, McDaniels vibes. Sam DeMann, I think the biggest insult you can give a coach in the NFL is to say he gives you Josh McDaniels vibes. That's like maybe the harshest thing you can say about a grown-ass man, is that he reminds you of Josh McDaniels.
That's like
It's like
saying,
in,
he gives me like creepy raper vibes. Whoa, what?
it's like in remember Semi Pro, the Will Ferrell movie?
Mhm.
And they're like making fun of each other, and the guy calls him a jive ass turkey, and everyone's like, what did you just call me? Like, no, he called you a cocksucker. It's like, no, you called me a jive ass turkey. That's what it's like calling someone Josh McDaniels. It's like calling him a jive ass turkey. It's the harshest thing you can say.
It's oh god.
No,
Well,
he called you a cocksucker.
Jeffrey Dahmer. It's like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's giving me Jeffrey Dahmer vibes. That's not nice. You don't want to be compared to that guy.
Salmon Mitchell T97. Do you think Pete Carroll used the 10-second salt trick for massive erections? Dude, is your algorithm just bombarded with that commercial?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
My algorithm on Instagram is bombarded with the commercial of, it's like, oh man, this is what porn stars use to have massive hogs and giant erections. It's like a salt
Let me
trick.
turn my phone off before it freaking starts listening to it.
It's that constantly. I was like, am I the only one that's getting this all the time? It's nice to know that it's so familiar that Salmon's willing to make it a What Up Windbag. Like, it's just so common. I get it nonstop.
I don't have no idea what he's talking about.
It's like this commercial, like an ad on Instagram, and it's like, this is what porn stars use to have huge hogs and massive erections and blah blah blah. It's like a salt trick, and we can show you it in 15 seconds, and it's just like, it's just everywhere.
I don't remember ever seeing it.
I'm bombarded with it. I guess me and Simon watched the I guess we have the same Instagram model taste, because he and I both bombarded with it. To answer your question, ask Pete. That's another question that didn't get answered at the press conference. Who's in charge of decision making, and do you use the 10-second salt trick? These beat writers, they're just not doing their jobs.
Do you salt it like a piece of meat, like to like preserve it?
I have no idea. It's like I get 4 seconds.
RJ, don't tell me you didn't watch the video, dude.
I don't watch any ads. I'm so influenceable. Commercials every time. Whatever beer commercial is the funniest, I'm drinking that beer. When it was the Bud Light Real Men of Genius, I drank nothing but Bud Light for like 4 years because those commercials were so good. Real Men of Genius. And then I drank Dos Equis for years because the most interesting man in the world. Oh, those commercials were hilarious. I need real commercials. I need Don Draper and Mad Men to convince me. The Instagram, I'm swiping. I'm moving. It's on a phone.
Dude, what was like in the Chappelle show when if the internet was a real place? Remember that skit? It's like a mall. He every third store he went to, this guy comes in like, "Hey, bro, you want a massive dick? Take this pill." Like every third store he went into was a guy, "Hey, bro."
No, it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing you let us know you didn't get those commercials, because then now we know for sure you have a huge hog. You made that abundantly clear. I don't get small dick commercials.
I have a slightly above average, but it works. So we're
no, it's huge. You're being humble. You're being humble. If you don't get the salt trick commercial,
I don't, dude.
That means your phone knows how big you are.
I've never heard of it before.
I thought I was the only one in the world getting it too. It's nice to know.
You want to see it? I think our buddy Brian has a picture of it. I sent him a picture, like, God, I don't know how long ago it was. It had to have been at least 15 years ago. And I was playing a joke. Like I put my hand down there, like, and I made it look like my dick was my thumb, and I wrapped like the base of it with like some like gauze. And I was like, and I took a pic. I said it to him, and I'm like, "Oh man, I hit my thumb with like putting up a freaking picture or something like that." Like, oh, my thumb's all swollen. And he kept the picture. I'm like, dude, how many? We were at the single mom fundraiser, and he like showed the picture. I'm like, dude, why do you have a picture of my dick on your phone? He's like, wait, this is your dick? And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, I sent it to you a long time ago. He's like, oh, I thought you just sent me a freaking meme. Like, there were no memes back then, dude. I said, like, I was joking with you and like 4 other guys from the gym where we trained at. And why are you keeping, like, how many phones have you had in those like 15 years that you kept the picture on your phone year after year? Are you looking through your phone right now for it? Do you have it too?
I'm scrolling through Insta to see if it pops up, and it hasn't yet. This is the longest I've scrolled. It's almost like they hear us making fun of it, and so they're like, "No, now we're gonna hide," because they're always listening. I'm scrolling. It's not popping up. I want to show it to you.
Yeah, I turn my
All
phone off, dude.
Oh, there it is. There it is. They have, so it's so cheap. They have like Sylvester Stallone as an AI, and you can tell it's not him talking. It's like
15-second
they'll
trick
have like
off by Harvard scientists.
they'll
Trust me,
have
just so you know.
celebrities. Because that's what made me stop at first. It was like Sylvester Stallone. I was like, oh, and then he's like moving like that, but like you're like, all right, this
terrible.
is clearly not him. And then it's just all like, all right, if you give us 15 seconds, we'll show. Yeah, it took me 30 seconds of scrolling, and it popped up.
It's terrible.
All right, that's it for us. We'll keep an eye out on OC. Again, Patrick Graham isn't it's not done yet, but it sounds like it's on the finish line there. They have the DC head coach in place, GM in place, DC in place. Now we're waiting on OC, and then we get in, and then they'll start filling out the rest of the coaching staff. It does seem like we'll keep a lot of the same defensive coaching staff. We're keeping Patrick Graham. I think it's semi-safe to assume that might be the direction they go. Offensive coordinator kind of wide open. We'll see how many of Carroll's kids he brings over. That's probably going to look a lot more different as it should, because we just went through so many OCs. So that's what we'll be following throughout the course of the last few days. Anything crazy happens, we'll go live and let you know. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.